inflation policy, this topic, it's not an easy topic as well. So, again, right? If you think that your cup is too full for the coming prelims, then really do it after the prelims. But I want you to take down these pages. The lecture notes is very short, very descriptive. I took out a lot of equations compared to the course guide. Alright, I don't think you should read the course guide because it was written not for exam purpose. It was written for merely understanding, especially those who are very strong in maths. Alright, then you would see, you will actually benefit. So for the purpose of studying it for section A true false question, we have not seen questions really on this. But in view that you don't have option for section A, you want to prepare all the concepts. So these are the concepts that given in page 3, 8, 11, 16 and 18. Make sure you study them. And they are not too difficult. Okay? So what is this topic about? What is exactly stabilization policies about? Alright, so let's turn to page 1. I will not finish the whole chapter, so I'll only cover as much as I can. Then I will go through the practice question in revision lecture 1. So what we did from topic 1 to 8, you could see, we were all using economics models. Right? We talk about IBC, IS curve, LM curve, money demand, money supply, etc. We were merely using the models, shift the curves, discuss the economic outcome. We say price goes up, output change, interest rate change. Right? But we don't specifically discuss, did we meet the goals of government? All we say is inflation rate went up. Right? And inflation is high. But does it meet the goals of government? So that's why the focus of this topic is to know what are the goals of government, and if your economic outcome deviates from the goals, government therefore use the policies to achieve these goals. Right? So this topic itself, you could see, is very evaluation in nature. There is no new concept. Probably there's only 3 concepts that are new. But they are new based on existing model. Okay? So to study well for this topic 9, you must know, if you are very weak at ADAS, you will struggle a lot. Because it is not basically just reading through. You must have the ADAS diagram at the back of your mind. Okay? But I really trim as much as I can. So I'm telling you, out of these 20 pages, you must study this as the minimum. But for those who are more interested, you can go through your course guide. But I need to warn you, right? The course guide gave a lot of equations. But knowing that we are preparing this for section A, true-false questions, equations are not crucial. So don't overstudy. Okay, so with that, let's move on to page 2. Okay, just to highlight to you, what are the goals of government? So we use our ISLM ADAS, we discuss P, Y, and I. Then we use Solo's model. We talk about economic growth based on population growth rate, technology growth rate. So government must set goals. Alright, so the general goals of government is low inflation, low unemployment, and growth taking place in your country. So later on, in the remaining pages, they will explain to you what are the percentage you want to achieve. Okay? But first of all, if you want to set goals, you must first set realistic goals, and you must also know what causes the economy not able to achieve the goals. Alright, so first you must know the causes of instability. You want your inflation to be 2%. How come inflation turned out to be 5%? You must know the causes first. Then you can deploy the correct policy to correct the problem. Okay, so this is a quick recap. Right? You may not reach your goals is because AD could have shifted. Okay, or AS have shifted. This is topic 8. Okay, but compare AD to AS. Shift of AS is more dramatic. Government cannot control supply shock. You don't know when it's going to happen. You do not know when is the war taking place. You do not know, alright, when is going to be an oil crisis. So in this case, alright, government can set goals, but government are wary about supply shock. It will move the economy away from the intended goal of government. Right? And bringing the economy to actually counter the shocks are very difficult, which I briefly showed you yesterday. Okay? When you have stagflation, economy don't move in a symmetric manner. The second reason that we know economy don't reach your goal is because of wages and prices are rigid. This is where I keep telling you, US. Why are they in a deep recession? How come the AS curve cannot shift to the right? It's because of high minimum wage law. Alright, so sometimes it's not because ADAS shifted. It's because the economy stays at a point for too long due to wage price rigidity. So first, to know what policies you want to use, you first set your goals. Then you must understand what moves the economy away from the goals due to shift of ADAS, due to wage price stickiness. So you can see it's just a summary of topic 8. Okay, then moving on, page 3. Right, that's where we discuss in topic 8, shift of ISLM. We use our fiscal and monetary policy. Okay, alright, so I'm going to skip this whole chunk, you go back and read through. Now, so government realize you're not at your goal yet. So you want to shift your ADAS, but how successful you are. Okay, we're going to look at point number 4. So this is the first concept you must study. So if government wants to solve economic problems, for example, your economy may have inflation. Do you want to use anticipated policies, means announced in advance, so that you can appease the public that government is doing something? Or do you want to use surprise policy, that people wake up the next day, they read the newspaper, then they found out, oh, government changed policy. So which is better? So all you know is if you have inflation, you aim to reduce AD. But do you want to tell people in advance, or you want to caught them by surprise? Alright, so the PIP, Policy Ineffective Proposition, suggests if you want your policy to work well, you should surprise them. Okay? And this is the example that I use. If you have inflation, one way to curb inflation is to increase taxes. Alright, so that you will find the goods very expensive beyond their purchasing power. But if you announce in advance, what would household do? They will buy more at the current period. So you will worsen inflation. So your future tax rate may not be sufficient anymore to bring down inflation. So this is PIP. So all this while we happily shift AD to the left, to the right. But we actually forget about time dimension. Do government let the household know the policies? Right? So PIP suggests answer is no. Don't let them know. Let them wake up the next day, read newspaper, GST 10%. Everybody slow down the spending, which is good. If you tell Singaporeans GST is going to be 10% in 1st of May, you give them time to react. They will start to buy all the electronic goods. They will start to buy cars. It will worsen inflation. Alright, so it's a very simple concept known as the PIP. Announce your policies in advance. Alright, and as a result, you can cool down the economy faster. So the other points, I leave it to you to read through. Right, telling you, it's not about shift of AD. A lot of times, whether policy works or not depends very much on many circumstances. The source of your shift, time frame, and whether your policy can react fast enough. Okay? Then the remaining discussion from page 4 onwards, okay, is on your economic goals. So I'm going to cover just a few key pointers. Right, so don't turn, but page 2, if you recall, we said one of the goals of government is to have low inflation. Right, okay, and if you want to achieve low inflation, you then design your economic policies. Right, so if we bring the two together, what is this low inflation that the country wants to achieve? Is usually below 4%. Right, okay, so government don't just take an arbitrary value. The international rate is usually below 4. And to achieve it is to use monetary policy. So far in topic 2 all the way to topic 8, we tell you government use monetary policy. But in actual fact, how do you know? Is when you know government wants to control inflation, and this is your basic analysis. Okay, but if you use monetary policy, you change your money stock. You affect financial markets interest rates, bringing it to the goods market investment, and then affecting AD that will shift left or right, then the price level. So therefore, monetary policy is used to control inflation. Alright, but how do you control inflation? It's either through the M or the I. Either one of them. Okay, so in traditional school of thought, they call it the monetarist view. Okay, in very traditional time, government actually control money supply. Okay, because they merely apply quantity theory of money, MV equals P1. If you recall your quantity theory of money, topic 4, the model suggests V and Y are constant. So percentage change in M is equal to percentage change in P. So this tells you in a country, if government only wants 3% inflation, and if you believe in this model, M will only change 3%. So you control your money supply. Every periodical period, every quarter, you look at your inflation target, you set your money growth target. Okay, but the model, we know it doesn't work because in the real world, you cannot assume output to be constant. Especially nowadays, we tend to face a lot of supply shocks. But always remember, the key word is the word shock, not supply, it's the word shock. Shock means you can't predict when it's coming. So we have ongoing oil crisis, food shortages. So our AS will always shift to the left, unexpectedly. So to assume that Y is constant is not realistic. So therefore, you find it hard to control inflation. Take for example, alright, your money growth is 3%. But because of the shocks in the economy, your output compared to last year did not stay constant, probably because it went up by 1%. Right, so in this case, inflation wasn't 3% as what you expected. Okay, now besides talking about money growth, and it is hard to control money. This is back to topic 6. You want to control money supply exactly 3%. But if you are dealing with an open economy, you know, right, we are always discussing horizontal or a flat BP. Funds can easily flow in. Alright, so in this case, if you are using fixed exchange rate, the flow of funds will affect your exchange rate. You need to buy and sell. So you couldn't fully control your M. Right, so that's why in modern economies, we don't have fixing money supply. It can't work anymore. Change in M goes beyond the control of government when we have open economy and we have a lot of supply shocks. So instead of money growth targeting, nowadays we move into interest rate targeting. Okay, this is, you can put it down, this is US. US goes for interest rate targeting. So they control, they shift the money supply to maintain a near zero or a low interest rates. Okay, alright, so I've sketched in the top diagram for you. This is not difficult. Okay, so you put it in, and you can see. So this is back to topic 4. Okay, point A, I1, quantity of money. So government don't control money supply. Instead, for example, if money demand went up, okay, you could see, typically this is Keynes effect. We hold more money. That's why we will drive interest rate up to I2. That's Keynes effect. But if government are not controlling money supply, government is interested to maintain interest rate at I1. So you can put a highlight over it. You have to therefore increase money supply. So this is called interest rate targeting. And some of you learned that this is one way to minimize crowding out effect. Alright, so you target your interest rate, you don't let it go up. You change your money supply to meet the money demand. So you cannot say, oh, money growth must be 3%. It depends on how much money demand change. Right, so in this case, you change your M depending on the change in money demand. So you must look at your market forces, how people hold money. So this is actually more realistic. You watch the market. But again, you evaluate the policy. Can this work? Why is it a lot of countries don't do it? Right? It's because, again, come back all the way to here. Right? You want to change your M. What do government do? Government buy or sell bonds. You want M to increase, government buy bonds. You want M to drop, government sell bonds. So you need to have the reaction of the market. If government were to buy from us, we must be willing to sell to government. Some of us think that holding bonds is for long-term retirement. We don't react. Or when government sell bonds, we think that they are junk. We think that government is going to collapse soon. We don't buy. So in this case, it all depends on the reaction of the market, which is household and banks. Right? So is this an easy tool to use in the real world? It's not. Right? But it is used in US because the bonds market, the financial market in US and UK are very strong. There is a ready market. You cannot use this in Singapore. Right? You can't use this. Nobody wants to buy Singapore government bonds. We think the payout is too little, it's not attractive. Okay? Then secondly, can you shift your money supply exactly to point A prime? Again, the answer is no. Because of your your fixed exchange rate in the open economy. Alright, so we know if you have an open economy, okay, and if government uses fixed exchange rate, okay, you have to increase your money supply further. So you increase your money supply one time to meet money demand already. But if your economy, you are an open economy with a lot of flow of funds or a lot of trading, then you have to further increase your money supply. Okay, then interest rate will not go back to I1, it will plunge. So controlling interest rate, therefore, it's not an easy goal for you to do. Right? But some government, they choose to do it. Okay, so besides US, right, it also includes Japan. They go for interest rate targeting. They want interest rate to remain affordable and predictable. Okay, so they have to readily shift the money supply, which they have the money to do so. That's why it must apply for very developed, very established economy. So that's called interest rate targeting. Okay, but these are not adopted. In fact, in the real world, countries, okay, they set inflation target instead. Okay, they don't look at interest rates as a reference. They know interest rate, there's no way you can control it already. Okay, so instead they set a target of inflation 1 to 3%. Okay, so you take for example, let's say, okay, so I'll give you an example here. We'll copy this down and we'll wrap up with just fiscal policy in a moment. So this is UK. Alright, so let's say she set her target to be 2%. Okay, right? Then in year 2010, her inflation is 3.39. So you set a target first. So you saw that, hey, you exceeded your target. Then you react. Unlike just now is you have to deliberately change money supply to react to money demand. Here is you decide yourself. So if you know that, okay, this is unbearable, then you will use primarily monetary policy. Okay, I put contractionary fiscal policy, but in the real world, it doesn't happen. Government use monetary policy. Alright, so in this case, you can see, okay, it will reduce the AD. Okay, but setting inflation target may not work. Because what if inflation was due to SRAS changing, not AD? If you have an oil crisis, can you solve the oil crisis using monetary policy? You can't. Right? Can government affect SRAS? You cannot. So you can see, whenever you set a target 2, then the outcome is 3.39. It doesn't mean you have to solve it. You must go back to the cause of it. If the cause of inflation is within your control, like AD went up, you can bring AD down. But if it is due to SRAS go down, means it shift left, you can't do anything at all. Your policy will worsen the situation. Okay? Then what will you do? You will forego your target. If I go to the UK, I will say, oh, I increase my pie bar to 4%. I don't solve inflation. I will just say, now the target is 4%. So inflation is 3.39, is within my target. I don't need to solve. So that is what is happening in the real world. It's very flexible. Whether you want to solve inflation is you set the target and you can change the target. As long as the target is between 1 to 4, it's very logical. That's why if you glance through, generally it's between 1 to 3. Just like Indonesia, they set it between 5. Because their current inflation is really so high. If they set it 2, nobody will beat them. Okay, so this is a very flexible policy. So this is what monetary policy is about. Alright, you use it when appropriate to control prices. Okay, now let's skip to look at fiscal policy. Now don't worry about the subsequent diagram. I'll give it to you when I see you in April because these are not critical. Okay, but now let's look at fiscal policy. Some of the key pointers.